Ready to go.
Okay, guys, it's Pete Cohen here. Thank you so much for joining me for another My 365 podcast. To say I'm excited right now would probably be one of the biggest understatements of my entire life. My guest today is the amazing Patti Dobrowolski. I think I might have said that fairly well. I think
Perfectly. It was perfect.
perfectly. Now, let me just tell you how I found Patti. It was by chance, really. I was kind of looking for some inspiration around drawing and creating your future, and I just typed something in on Google search, and I came across this TED talk, and it literally blew my mind. I had to go and show it to 3 or 4 people immediately and say, guys, look at this. Why haven't we thought of this? Why haven't we thought of working with people and getting them to draw their future? Now, my dad has always said to me, son, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I thought I'm going to contact Patti, and amazingly, she came back to me, and we recorded a podcast some time ago, but it didn't come out very well. So Patti kindly said, well, look, I enjoyed it so much. Let's do it again. So here we are. Patti, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Fantastic. Everything's just great. I mean, as much as it can be during the political climate that we're in. We won't even go there, but just say, think love all the time, because we got to spread that out there.
Well, I wonder if Donald Trump had actually drawn himself as the president of the United States, because I don't think too many people would have predicted that. But as you said, let's not even go there. So,
Exactly.
Patti, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to do what it is that you're doing today. Because I know you've worked with Fortune 500 companies, and your work is incredible in bringing vision to life for organizations, so people have a very clear idea of where they are and where they're going.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I started off as an actor. And, I had a pretty good career, and I went to Broadway for a short stint. And then after that, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I I had always seen that theater was really effective. So I went back to school, and I got a degree in drama therapy. And the problem was I wasn't that great as a therapist. I would just tell people what to do. I'd be like, you have a drinking problem, go to AA, or, that guy, he's bad for you, leave him, So somebody said, you're never going to make any money doing this. Why don't you go into business? They love it when you tell them what to do in business, right?
Yeah.
So I did. So I went into business, and I started to do change management. Like, for example, when they would fire people, they bring me in to get the rest of the people back to work that were left there. And one day I was sitting in a session, and it wasn't going very well. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I had seen somebody draw a picture in a meeting I'd been in like 2 weeks before. And I wasn't an artist. I didn't know really how to use it. But when I went into the bathroom and locked the door because I was just so freaked out that the session wasn't going well, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I thought, well, what if I have them draw in there? What if I do something really outside their comfort zone? See if we can't get them to do it. So I went back in, and I put paper all over the wall, and I gave everybody a Sharpie, and I said, I want you to draw a picture of what it's like right now. And then after they'd done that, like, the room got really calm, and I had them draw where they wanted to be a year from now. And really, honestly, the rest is history, because I saw immediately in that room that if you drew a picture of where you wanted to be, it changed everybody's state of consciousness, really, to this optimism that hadn't been there before. Something about the current state let them let go, and something about the future state pulled them forward. And then I just began hacking drawing ever since then.
Well, I have to really thank you, because since talking to you, it's kind of opened my mind even more. My background is like you. I like helping people, background in psychology. And I remember reading Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill said that he reckoned 2% of people around the world have a burning desire because they know where they're going. Now, I have to tell you this story because you've already created a massive change. And so basically, I think I told you a number of years ago, my wife wasn't given very long to live. She was given 18 months to live 5.5 years ago. So my parents brought me up to believe it's not what you know, it's who you know, and is an answer to everything. So we found a treatment in Houston, Texas. We had the treatment. But I phoned a friend who was a doctor, and he said, find people that are still alive. And then he said, what's she going to do when she gets better? I said, Rafa, she's been told she's going to die. And then he said, well, what difference does that make? People defy the odds all the time. Anyway, I didn't think too much about what she was going to do when she survived. I just thought, let's get her to live. Anyway, I watched your video, and my wife and I, we started a business actually through when she was sick. She's now cancer-free, nearly 6 years. And I said to her about a year ago, I said, and actually not that, after I spoke to you the first time, I then said to her, Hannah, look, it's so interesting. We need to really think about where we're going. I said, and then she started crying. And then I asked her why. And it was obvious, you know, she didn't have a vision of where she wanted to go. She just had a vision of not dying. So I have to commend you, because I'll love to show you this picture. It's downstairs, because she drew it. She drew a picture of a house with me and her and a baby. She's younger than me, and our cat. And it's on the wall, and we look at it every day. And that gives us inspiration. And it's what you did, me reaching out to you and you sharing, coming back to me. I just wanted to thank you first and foremost. But I also, in coming back to you and asking a question, why do you think so few people have an idea or a sense of where they are going?
Well, I think about the world that we live in, right? And even all of the, there's a thing that when you think about Maslow's law, in Maslow's, whole law of existence, he believed you had to get to a certain level in order to get beyond it, to dream bigger. So if you're just worried about existing, right, and you're just barely making it, it's hard to give yourself the space to envision the future. But the other piece of it is, I think that in the world we live in, there's really a dual coin we're always working with. It's either love or it's fear. We're always operating in those two spheres. We either are in a place of openness and experience and expression, or we're reacting. And our reaction is often based in fear. And that's really because of the way that the body is set up to protect us. The amygdala, that part of our brain, and the limbic system, it's always trying to keep us safe from harm. Like we don't want anything scary to happen. So we don't allow ourselves to step out. And I also think, there's something about life that we fear, we don't believe or step into our full potential. And if you think about it, just look at the world around you, many people don't step into their potential because they don't feel worthy to do it. And that's part of our DNA, right? Yeah. So it's from a metaphysical level, it's part of what we have to overcome is we have to find ways to value ourselves and be humble in that, right? So it's not about but sometimes you have to jump over it and assume that the best thing is going to happen, like you and your wife did. And the picture, I think, it helps you to focus on something different. And whether the things in the picture happen or not, it doesn't matter because what you've done is you've already changed your brain.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love what you said about that, which is it doesn't really matter whether it happens or not. But what is important, obviously, is to set the intention. I love what you said there about stepping into your potential, and you're either open or you're kind of closed. It's a choice, and it's funny, isn't it? Why a lot of people are scared to make that choice. But just tell me about some of the organizations or some of the things that have happened through this process, that people who have done it, individuals, organizations. I'd love to hear some of your success.
Sure. Well, I work with big companies, and I also, I have hundreds of people who send me emails every year that are like these success stories of what you said. You envision your future, your wife is cancer free, and that's the vision you're stepping into. So I have this one guy who had drawn his future, unbeknownst to me. But when he got stuck, he contacted me and he sent me this email. And he was a PA, production assistant, for many, many filmmakers, right? So he sometimes ran the camera, he sometimes was just working on the set, but he always had this dream of making his own movie. And so he had gone to Bali to make his own movie. He wrote the script and he was over there, and they ran out of money, which often happens. And he wrote me and said, what do I do now? How can I get, like, I have the vision of the future, but I'm like stuck in this place. And, that's when you're between here and there, that's where fear takes hold. And it kind of gets in there and it grips your heart. And it just says, do you really want that thing? Do you really want it? Do you really want it? And you have to like go all in. And so once I wrote him back this note and I said, just focus on the right side of your map. No matter what you do, just keep looking at that picture and envisioning the best possible future. And then, so, a year goes by and I didn't hear anything from him. So I wrote him and I said, hey, I wondered whatever happened with that film. And he said, we're going to the Cannes Festival with the film.
Wow.
I'm like, are you kidding me? So that's like a very dramatic example of somebody who has used the visioning and mapping process to get there. But, people use it just to change their business or to change their relationships. Those things happen all the time.
It's fascinating to me when we talk about business, because for me, we are our own business, first of all. I talk about leadership a lot, and it's like, well, you're a leader. Whether you think about it or not, you're leading yourself. You are a business. You're in the business of whatever you want, but you're in the business of leading your life. But I had a conversation today. I was thinking about you today. I was talking to a company who I'm doing some work with, and I was asking, so where is the company going? Do the people in the business have a clear vision of where it's going? And he said, well, no, not really. And it just, people have mission statements, but people never remember what the mission statement is because it's just a collection of words. I've seen a lot of the stuff that you've drawn, and it's not you, the people you've worked with have drawn. What do you think happens to employees in organizations that they actually physically are part of that process?
Yeah, I think there's an amazing thing that happens. I was in Hungary and I was working with Cooper Vision over there. Now there was a plant, they make contact lenses, right? And so we went to the plant and they have simultaneous, so I worked with the leaders of them, but they have simultaneous translations so that everybody's speaking in Hungarian. I hear it in English. And then I capture in a picture what they're talking about without the words in it. I just put on Post-it notes what the words should be, and then they come and translate it into Hungarian. Then I write it on the map. So the whole thing's in Hungarian for them when I leave. But first, and I was working with a guy, Wim Lammertink, who's an amazing HR leader, and I've worked with him on a number of projects, but what he does is he says, without a history, there is no future. So we capture this huge, long picture of the history of the company, and then we get them to envision the best possible future for the company. We come back 3 years from today, and they're calling it out from the audience, and I'm drawing that picture live for them so that they have this kind of ownership. And what happens when you start to draw and dream your future, whether you're drawing it yourself or someone's drawing it in front of you, is it activates the chemistry in your body. So when we draw and dream, it activates this oxytocin and serotonin, this sort of elixir of positive feeling. And, honestly, if people knew this, they would stop using hallucinogenic drugs, I think, because it is in itself a hallucinogenic state that you set yourself into because you're in such a positive frame of mind that everything is possible. And this is that love space I was talking about. It's the energy field of the quantum field that you throw yourself into when you draw the future.
It's so powerful. And I just wanted to ask you something from a business perspective. I'm a keynote speaker. I speak all over the world for corporations. And I find it so fascinating how so few organizations actually want the people that work to be a part of where the business is going. Why do you, is it fear? I remember, again, going back to Napoleon Hill, talking about in
I
1930, saying the era of the go-getter is gone. It's the go-giver. What can I give you?
right.
Why do you think that is so few organizations kind of get
It's,
everyone on board?
when you're on the top, the top of the organization, you have a vantage point into a number of things that are happening. But it's easier we're looking at it. I sometimes think leaders operate from a command control perspective. They're not thinking about it from the bottom up. They don't realize that the people on the front line have actually all the answers that are needed for the future state. And also, that's a lot of people. Like, you can imagine that'd be 4,000 people in a room. How could you build the future that way, actually? But it's fantastic what you do, because then everybody is on board. There's no question. That's our future, and we built it together, right? So the investment level goes way up. But I don't think that leaders, I think they're afraid that if something comes out in that, they'll have to respond to it. Years ago, I worked down in an oil company down in South Texas, like way, way south. And in the room, they started to envision the future. And he just put the cap on it right in the session. And I was a really young facilitator, so I didn't know enough to kind of challenge it in the room. And so later I reflected on it, and I was like, why did he do that? Why did he do? So I pulled him aside and I said, why did you do that? He said, well, if they set a future, then I'm going to have to respond to it. What if I can't? What if the shareholders won't let me? And I'm like, wow, okay. So, I think if you're a public company, it's hard because you are responsible and you're accountable to all these different people. But if you recognize that all throughout that organization are people who are wanting to step into a greater leadership role, and you allow them to, you have way more success.
Wow.
You do. Think about, like, a good example of that is Google. It's really flat. That organization is set up in a flat way so that people can step into their best self.
So just tell me, do you believe that we're all born with the seed of potential? We're all born with the seed that there's a part of us that just wants to grow, wants to explore, wants to achieve things. Do you believe that every human being kind of has that ability to do great things?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I do. And I think, the secret sauce is or what inhibits you sometimes is your environment or what you say to yourself. And you're part of this, so you understand this. But what you say to yourself every day predicts your outcome. So you have to be careful what you say about yourself and about other people around you, and just always be putting into the positive frame the things that you believe or you want to step into. Because how did I end up on Broadway? Like, really? I was a performance artist. I wasn't supposed to be on Broadway at all. There was no way I was going to be in that. But, I kind of envisioned that I'd be there, and I was hanging out with a Broadway actress, and I got fascinated with it. And, swear to God, like within 6 months, I get in a show. It goes to the main stage of the Seattle Rep. It goes to the Kennedy Center, and then it goes to Broadway. Like, how did that happen? There were people in that cast who wanted to be on Broadway their entire lives. And there we were, 6 of us from Seattle. We'd never even thought about being on Broadway.
So right? you did not envisage that?
I did envision it after I'd met, but it wasn't like the focus. If you're a performance artist, your focus really isn't to be on Broadway. It's more to be off Broadway, right? So on Broadway, I just fantasized about it. It wasn't like the goal for me in my life to do that. The goal was to be able to act and perform, right? And that was a byproduct, I believe, of me staying with Dale Souls, who's in Orange is the New Black, right? Just staying at her house, hearing her sing along with her own musical, me fantasizing about it, asking her all about it, her taking me to Tavern on the Green, showing me where opening night party could be, all those things. Yeah. That built this image in my mind and then I would just play, thinking to myself, well, maybe this would happen. I don't know, but I'm going to try. Yeah. And I would just hack myself. And that was one of the hacks, was myself on Broadway.
Yeah, well, I'm furiously making notes here as well because there's a few things you've said which struck
You write?
massive.
I just want to see what's in there. What are you writing?
Just making some notes, but I should actually
Good.
be probably be drawing. But I love what you say about hacks. You know, hacking things, and I think something magical happens when you love what you do and you just get lost in what you're doing. I think often great things happen. But from what I see is that all of us were born with this projector. We've all got it inside our head. Like you go to the cinema, you sit there. In the old days, they'd have a thing that would project the thing out on the screen, and you'd sit there and watch. Which was in someone else's imagination originally. I remember going to watch Star Wars in 1977, and I was like this because that was
Yeah.
obviously in someone else's mind, and they had made that happen. And it was incredible to me. And even then I was thinking, well, what can I imagine in my mind? And that's why we love stories, because it plays with our imagination. So I know that there will be thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that I imagine will listen to this. Now, so many of those people are people who just are wanting more, wanting to create a better life for themselves. What would you say to, the average sort of person about someone who wants to create a better life for themselves in 5 years' time?
Well, this one thing is, I would say your imagination is the key. Imagination is really the engine behind our lives. It is. And so you want to leverage your imagination, use it, hack your imagination for the better. And
Yeah.
there's something about serving, what can I serve up based on my experience? What's interesting to me? What troublesome experiences did I have that I can hack into a career, perhaps, or I can hack into an idea?
Mm.
And my thing around hacking is, I try it and test all the time. And I love this term hack. And I remember when Dave Asprey from Bulletproof Coffee, he would talk about it. And I would be like, yeah, hack, that's it. That's what we're doing. We're trying to hack our consciousness so that we can step into it. So you set out maybe just something small that you want to have happen. And it's really the creative genius equation is imagination times intuition plus desire times drive is outcome to the infinite power. So you imagine something, you allow your knowingness to help you choose the right thing in those imaginings that you want to put your effort into. Then you put your whole heart into it, your passion into it, and then you put your drive, your muscle into it. It's bound to happen. And so sometimes you have to persist, like the guy who was making the movie. And sometimes it's as easy as just, getting over your fear, do one small thing, get on the phone, call somebody that you know who's doing that thing you love and ask them how they got started. Ask them to volunteer. Ask them how you could help them be successful versus how can they help you be successful. Because I think what we learn is that if we go out there, I wasn't a great illustrator. So I did an internship to help that woman that I worked with be a better business person. And I learned everything from her. I really learned how to draw. I learned how to organize a thought into a strategic illustration. And that's the way, if you can frame it that way in your mind, this is what I want, one small thing. Who do I know that's doing that? How can I help them be more successful? Because inevitably you'll get something fantastic out of it.
Wow. It's just, I've got many hairs on the back of my neck and back, and they're all of them are standing up. All the ones that were once on my head have all gone south. There was so many things. I was thinking to myself, writing these notes, and then in my head I was going, hang on, why are you writing notes? You're recording this. You can watch it again. But it's my excitement and my enthusiasm that you evoke in me, because that's how excited and enthusiastic you are about what you do. And this is something that if people are going to do it, it's not the sort of thing you can do half-heartedly. You have to kind of... It's funny though, isn't it, when you give people a pen, when you talk about the voice in their head, most people originally go, well, I can't draw, How do people overcome that? I suppose just get started, right?
That's right. And somebody's daughter said to them when he said to her, I can't draw as good as you. And she said, well, you never practice. That's what she said. She was 4, right? And it's the truth. We let go of that, but everybody doodles. You doodle things on a piece of paper when you're bored in a meeting, or you're doodling when you're on the phone. You're doodling right now by taking notes. That's doodling.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you draw a picture or a word, because in fact your brain sees a word as a picture. It doesn't know the difference that that's a word, other than we tell it that, right? But it's still, you're somatically working the material, and that's what keeps you engaged. But the other thing is, everything comes from basic shapes. It comes from a square, a triangle, a circle, a parentheses, a comma, a line. And if you can remember that and look for that, it's easy to turn a square into a building. It's easy to turn a circle into a cat by putting those triangles on their ear and their upside down nose, and those lines become their whiskers. We draw all the time. So if you just look at and practice drawing what you see in the room around you. That's how I learned. I wasn't an artist. I was terrible.
Yeah,
I could, they'd go to art class. They'd be like, you should choose something else. And so I just knew that that guy at the front of the room drawing that picture, he was making a lot of money doing that, and he was having fun. I wanted to do that. So the next week, I told a friend of mine, and she said, well, I need somebody to capture flip chart notes for me. Will you come and draw? And so I go, well, I'll write the flip chart notes, and maybe I'll do a few pictures next to the side of it. Do you mind? And she goes, no. So I go in there, I'm writing the words, and then I draw these little pictures. Not great, but people didn't care. They were like, oh, God, I love that you drew those pictures. That's fantastic. So right away I heard, okay, that was the right direction, right? So thing when you're in your life and you're stuck, you have to hack it in this way. You kind of think, oh, I have this little passion about stuff, or I love that thing that I just saw. I wonder how I would do that. How would I do that? So you don't worry so much about it. You think more about yourself doing it. You want to envision that, and then let the universe fill the gap for you. It'll bring you somebody who knows how to do that. It'll bring you a message in a billboard that'll give you the answer to how to get on. It'll give you the TEDx video that you and your wife could, draw a picture from. It's all out there, and your job is really just to tune it in. Just tune in and let, what I consider to be your creative genius guide you to the next step, because that's the innate part of us. People aren't creative geniuses. Creative genius came from this Latin term. In Latin, genius comes from ingenium, which is of innate talent and capability, right? And creative means to do something new and of value. So the only difference between us and who we see as creative genius, like Einstein or Steve Jobs or whatever, is they engaged with their ideas and ran these thought experiments using their imagination to have these breakthroughs. Yeah. And they drew them. This is key. Like every creative...
Yeah, of course. Everyone's drawn everything,
So they're working on a chalkboard, they're working their ideas that's where we get it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, to think, the cars, the bikes, the houses, everything. It was all once just a figment in someone's imagination, and to think that, it's crazy. But you inspire me. I know you're going to inspire millions more, and I know you already have. People can obviously go and check out your TED Talk. I know we'll look at how people can directly work with you. There's a couple of things I wanted to say to you. This is I don't show this to many people, but I was very fortunate for many years to have a coach, and he was originally from the Philippines. He lived in Dallas, Texas, and he was really awesome. He was a doctor. He was a doctor of Western medicine, but he's from a very small island, an island called Cebu. And when he used to come over and work, he helped me in my 20s. I was burnt out, and he helped me. And he always used to say, get people to answer these questions and write them out with their hands. And the question was, where are you in your life right now? How do you feel about where you are? And at the end, they'd have to sign it. He'd have to sign it. And then I'd give him, and he didn't even know who these people were. And this might sound crazy to some people, but I really don't care. And he would look at it, and then he'd talk to me and say, right, this person, he said, you know what, they've got some issues. And I was going, and then one person, he said, this person's really disruptive. I said, how do you know? He goes, I can read it. And basically what he was saying is, he said, look, hundreds of years ago, even when he was a boy, when people were sick, there weren't always doctors, so they'd take a signature and send it to someone, and then the doctor would look at the signature and go, okay, this is what's going on for this person. This is what's wrong with them. Now, I know for some people they think that's far-fetched, but whether you believe this or not, when you write things, there's no one on this earth that can write the same way as you or draw the same way as you. It's the most unique thing. It's your stamp. And that was the other thing I really got from watching you, that when you draw this, it's you. It's your energy in the wall. That's what you're connecting to, or wherever you stick the picture. And it's bringing your imagination. How else can you do it? If you don't do this, and I loved what you said in the TED Talk. You said, just draw it. And then when you've drawn it, color it.
Yeah.
Add color, throw color into the image. And then all of a sudden people, and it's incredible. I just had to share that with you because,
Yeah, I love that. I think that there's two things. One is I think it's important to find somebody who can help you and mentor you, because everybody studies, this is my guy that I study with, right? So, that's right. So everybody's got someone who's helping them to take the next step. And I think that looking for those techniques and tips that you get from people that you can then take and transform into yours. This thing about the signature being uniquely yours, it's the same as what you do in the world is uniquely yours. No one will do it. That's why, honestly, the idea that everything's copywritten and stuff like that, nobody will do the exact same thing as you did. Even if they replicate it, it's not going to be you. It won't be the same. And that, that's why I tell people, go to my website, download in the store the free template, print it out, run it with your teams. There's a toolkit in there if you need it. Otherwise, just run the process, because I want people to understand that they can draw their future. It's not rocket science. It's easy to do. And like you said, the guy had you write out where you were right now. Like when you know where you are, and then you know where you want to be because you've drawn a picture of it in words and images of all those things you want, the qualities and characteristics, it has a greater chance of happening because it's not trapped in here. In your brain, the prefrontal cortex can only hold 2 or 3 thoughts on it at the same time. So it's trying to make sure that, you get that thing to the mailbox before the mailman comes. It's worried about, did you leave the stove on? It's got all these things that are jumping onto that stage, as David Rock would say in his book, Your Brain at Work. He talks about the prefrontal cortex like a stage. And I love that because I was an actor, right? So, but I know that on my brain, things jump on that stage all the time. And you have to capture them. Because great ideas are fantastic. But if you don't do something with them, then we don't get to reap the benefit of it. You'll get your mark, your signature.
Listen, we could talk all day, and I'm going to throw this out there, and hopefully we can make this work. I had a chat with the gentleman who looks after a lot of your engagements, David, and just please give him a massive hug from me. We would love to find a way to. We had a summit here last year. We had some amazing speakers, and I want to find a way to bring you. Whereabouts in the States are you? Pacific? You San Francisco?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
We have to find a way to bring you over to the UK because speaking to you like this is great, but seeing you in the flesh would be. I know. I need to draw that.
That's right. Put it in that picture. I will too.
And then we can go and see a show at West End, right? We go West End.
Yes.
You tell me the show you want to see. You tell me the show you want to see. I'll get the tickets because it's not what you know, it's who you know. This has been so awesome. I'm really pleased. I believe everything happened for a reason. I believe that when I did it before, it wasn't meant to be because I'm in a different place to where I was before. I'm sure you are as well. Tell us, how can people connect with you and Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Change your phone. Don't do that.
How can people connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on the website. You can email me at Patti, Patti, at Up Your Creative Genius. That gets right in my email box. But the best way is to go to the website, upyourcreativegenius.com. We got a lot of things there, tools, and we even have this awesome coffee. So I'm going to have to send you some because we just created Blast Off Blend because, I've been working with coffee experts. So I had to create my own blend of coffee after that. So that's what we're doing. And
Wow.
we have a bunch of tools, like I created some creative genie cards for you to use to help you get through change. But on the website, I do a weekly a little tip of the week that's on Vimeo that comes out. And also, I do a blog post, always something uplifting. I often showcase people and what they're doing in the world. And it's a great way to connect with me there. And it's really simple to navigate, upyourcreativegenius.com. Everything's there.
I love upyourcreativegenius.com. That is a proper name of a website. Listen,
Yeah,
thank you.
and
Go on, sorry.
That's okay.
Say that
Just
again.
on Facebook or Twitter. Twitter. On Twitter, it's P. Dobrowolski, my name. So it's better to go to the website, get my name, and then go to Twitter from there.
Listen, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this. Normally this is the time of the day where I'm starting to slow down. It's 6:50 here in the UK, but I'm wired. And super fired up. Thank you so much
Thanks for having me again. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody listening. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.